How many times in the gym have you actually gotten your feet wider than shoulder width apart? Think about all of your leg days. Squats, deadlifts, leg presses, leg extensions, and hip thrusts. Most of those exercises keep you confined to what's known as the sagittal plane, feet shoulder width apart, moving in a straight up and down motion. Sagittal plane moves are great for developing raw strength, but here's the thing, your hips are designed to move in every direction. Neglecting lateral and rotational movement patterns can lead to tight, weak hips and can limit your body's ability to function optimally. That's why in today's video, I'll show you the only 2 exercises you need to build strong and mobile hips. These moves go beyond the sagittal plane to strengthen your hips in ways traditional exercises can't. They're easy to follow, adaptable for all levels, and incredibly effective. But before we dive in, I'm not just gonna show you the 2 exercises and call it a day. I'll also walk you through a 4-step progression for each, making it easy to tailor them to your current level. Let's get started. All right, the first exercise is the lateral squat. Now, the lateral squat explores the lateral or frontal plane of motion. It helps to strengthen your hips, your quads, your inner thighs, all while mobilizing your adductors in a dynamic fashion. Now, the great part about this is, again, by shifting your weight side to side, you're activating muscles that often get overlooked in traditional straight up and down movements in a very shoulder width stance. All right, so here's how you do the lateral squat. What you're gonna do is get your feet about 2 times shoulder width. So right around here, feet are going to be relatively straight. They can be slightly pointed out if you want. And now from here, you're gonna drop your weight down to the side while keeping your weight along the middle of your foot. All right, so as I'm coming down, I'm thinking about my midfoot all the way down here. And then I stand back up. All right, so I'm not too far back on my heel. I'm not so far forward that my heel picks up. I'm still trying to stay rooted to the ground, just like I would for a regular squat or a deadlift where you keep your weight along your midfoot. Same exact concept applies. So I'm here, I shift my weight down and back, weight along the midfoot. And now here in this bottom position, I'm getting a ton of good strength. This is nearly single leg strength on this side while getting a ton of length on this side. All right, and then I just return back to the start position. Now, the great part is the loading potential here. You can hold a goblet position, you can grab a barbell, you can have kettlebells, low hold kettlebells or dumbbells, and you can perform the movement and really load it significantly. So this is just a great way to get lateral squat strength. All right, so now level 2 is going to be the lateral lunge. Now, level 1 was a lateral squat, and we always start people here because it's so easy to coordinate the movement because you're staying in a relatively static position. So your feet are out wide, we have people drop down and come back up. All right, so there's not too much to think about because your feet are fixed and you're just moving your body back and forth. The lateral lunge is gonna be a little more challenging because it's more dynamic. So from here, after you've gained proficiency with level 1, the lateral squat, we move on to level 2, which is the lateral lunge. Feet are together now, and then you stride over to the right lateral squat position, and you drop down into a lunge, and then you pop yourself all the way back up. So not only is it more dynamic, but also requires more strength because you're all the way down here, and you're trying to push yourself all the way back. So it just requires a little more power, a little more strength and force to get you all the way back to this start position. All right, so make sure, again, same thing applies for the lateral lunge. As you drop down, weight is along the midfoot, and then I push and come all the way back up. Regardless if I have a barbell, regardless if I have kettlebells, dumbbells, whatever it is, I lunge down to the side, and then I push myself all the way back to the start position. All right, so just again, level 2 is gonna be a little more dynamic, requires a little more force, a little more challenge. All right, so level 3 is going to be the sliding lateral lunge. So for this one, you're gonna need a slider, and you can use a valve slide, a furniture slider, or even like a towel or a sock on a hardwood floor. But you're gonna place it down on the floor. Now, the difference here is that you're gonna place, let's say, the balls of your feet on the slider, and you're going to stay relatively in one spot as you slide this leg off to the side. So you're here, slide it down, and pull yourself back up. And again, same rules apply. My weight is along the midfoot, and most of my weight is here, and I'm just shifting this weight to the side as I come straight down. All right, so again, I'm getting a lot of dynamic strength, dynamic lengthening. The difference here though is that it requires a ton of single leg strength because you're just going up and down on this side while this leg is extending off to the side. As opposed to the lateral lunge where you're more stepping and using a little bit more momentum, this one you really have more static strength involved beyond than just stepping out dynamically, all right? So as I'm coming out and coming back in. The other thing is with the lateral lunge, you are able to step out and come back in, and you're able to kind of mask maybe some inefficiencies that you might have. You cannot mask inefficiencies with this move because you have to control every single degree of motion as you're sliding in and sliding out. Otherwise, you'll reach a sticking point and you'll falter and you'll just be able to not complete the rep. So this is why it's level 3 of the lateral squat series. All right, the fourth move is going to be the Cossack squat. This is the fourth and final level of our lateral squat series. So here's how you do it. You're gonna get your feet wider than 2 times shoulder width. So actually wider than the lateral squat. This is gonna be a little more range of motion, so you need a little more space to work with. Now from here, I like to hold on to a weight at first here just to give some counterbalance. I'm gonna drop myself off to the side, but instead of sitting here or stopping here, we're gonna go rock bottom all the way down, touching our butt down to our heels here, and I'm gonna rotate the toes of my non-stance leg, and I'm gonna rotate them up towards the ceiling. Now from here, you're going to transfer yourself back to the other side. So I'm gonna stay low and transfer, 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 and come down. All right, so in this position, obviously you're getting a lot more range of motion on this side. So a lot more single leg strength on this side. And then beyond that, you're also getting some rotational elements and lengthening on this side. So now you're also getting some hamstrings, some other parts of your inner thigh more involved into the movement. All right, so you can see how this is gonna be so much of a game changer for you if you've been so stuck in your ways with squats, deadlifts, leg presses, hip thrusts, leg extensions. This really opens up your possibilities, unlocks your hips in a newfound way, and also develops a lot of real-world hip strength, a lot of real-world hip mobility that's gonna be such a great translator to everyday life and athletics. All right, so we just wrapped up the 4 levels of exercise 1, the lateral squat. Now we're gonna move on to the 4 levels of exercise 2, and that's going to be the curtsy squat. So the first exercise, the lateral squat, targeted the lateral or frontal plane of motion. The curtsy squat targets the rotational or transverse plane of motion. All right, so when you're stepping back like this, you get your hips involved, your glutes involved, stabilizing musculature that just often gets overlooked with traditional exercises. So by stepping diagonally and dropping down into a lunge, you're challenging your balance, you're challenging your coordination, all while targeting underutilized muscles. All right, so here's how you do it. You're gonna get your feet about hip width apart or so, all right? And it actually helps to start off by straddling some sort of line. So you could have a line here in your mats, or you can have like a jump rope or a miniband set up, but it helps to think about a line right between your body, and you're gonna step your foot back diagonally, all right? Now from here, I'm gonna drop my hips down and lower myself down into this position, all right? And then I just come right back up. All right, so in this position, I'm basically crossing my back leg behind me like so as I'm dropping down, all right? So you can automatically see the rotational elements here. One thing that you wanna keep in mind is that you wanna think about your hips and your belly button facing straight ahead, all right? So imagine that you have like a flashlight attached to your belly button. You wanna think about keeping that flashlight pointed straight ahead as you're performing the movement. All right, because we see a lot of people who perform the curtsy squat and they actually let themselves rotate this way. And this effectively turns it into a regular lunge or a regular split squat. So you want to be able to make sure that you get that rotational aspect by getting your hips oriented this way as you lower yourself up and down during the movement. All right, so level 2 of the curtsy squat series, just like the lateral squat series, is going to be a curtsy lunge rather than a curtsy squat. All right, so for the curtsy lunge, again, just like the lateral lunge, you're gonna step into position. So rather than being here and going straight up and down, we're gonna make it a lot more dynamic by stepping back and forth, all right? So I'm gonna be right here, I'm gonna hold the weight in the goblet position, I'm gonna straddle my line here again to keep me honest, and I'm gonna step back, drop down, and then come back up to the start position. All right, so I'm dynamically stabilizing and rotating through the movement with each and every rep, just like that. So this requires a lot of proprioceptive ability, a lot of muscle memory as well to make sure that you step in the right spot each and every time. If you find that you're stepping all over the place with each and every rep, you're losing your balance, I would highly recommend going back to level 1. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about with your foot placement is when you're stepping back and across, as long as you are either in a tightrope position or slightly further than that, you're in a great position. So don't feel like you have to go all the way out here to the side, because more than likely, this is gonna force your hips to rotate out this way. So you wanna find a good balance where you can step as far as you can while also maintaining this level of hip internal rotation and getting that flashlight pointed straight ahead. So again, just don't go too far where you're rotating out this way, but also make sure that you don't feel like you have to go too far. Try to find a good starting point here where you're either on a tightrope or slightly off to the side as you go through the movement, and that's level 2, the Curtsy Lunge. All right, so level 3 is going to be the Landmine Curtsy Lunge. All right, so for this one, obviously you'll need a landmine or an angled barbell setup, and preferably something that's set up on a squat rack or pressed up against the wall, because for this one, you're gonna be really leaning into the landmine. All right, so for this one, you're gonna grab the bar like this, the end of the bar, and you're really setting yourself up where you're in a position where you're leaning against the weight. Now from here, I'm in this angled position, and I'm gonna set myself up with my curtsy stance. All right, so I'm gonna have that sort of cross behind look, and then I'm gonna drop myself down and come back up. All right, so this is the lunge variation though, so I want you to get into a position where you can step back and then come back up. Step back and come back up. So it's a super challenging movement, but it's also really functional because you're getting that lean, you're less up and down. And if you think about moves like, let's say, speed skaters or in athletics, or if you're literally a speed skater, you're in this position where you're coiled with your back leg back, your hip is in this rotated position, and then you can explode out of it. And this is just a really great way to develop function, to develop athleticism in a way that really loads that rotational movement pattern. All right, for the 4th and final level, you're gonna need a box for the Curtsy step up. All right, so for this one, you're gonna set up slightly off to the side of the box, and you're gonna cross over and step your foot up on the box. All right, so from here, you're basically in that curtsy lunge setup, except now your foot's elevated and this back leg is extended. And now from here, all you're gonna do is do your best to keep your hips square, just like you did for the curtsy lunge series, and you're gonna come up and then lower yourself back down. All right, so notice how this side is gonna be a little bit more challenging because your foot is no longer on the floor and you have to stabilize throughout this whole time as you're performing the step up. So it's a lot more control, dynamic stability as you're moving throughout space. All right, now the cool thing for this move is you can come up like this and then you can also come down the other way. All right, so perform this sort of curtsy crossover step pattern where you alternate sides back and forth. And for this move, you can hold the kettlebell or dumbbell up here, you can hold a barbell, you can hold dumbbells in each hand, but this is a great way to load this rotational movement pattern and able to get a lot of those underutilized muscles that you just wouldn't be able to hit with traditional squats, deadlifts, and leg presses. And there you have it, the only 2 exercises you need to build strong and mobile hips. These progressions will help you to unlock better strength, stability, and movement in ways that traditional exercises just can't. Try working through the progressions at your own pace and see how much your hips improve. I'd highly recommend exploring the lateral or frontal plane in one of your lower body lifting days and exploring the rotational rotational or transverse plane in one of your other lower body lifting days. And if you're looking for more workouts that combine strength, mobility, and athletic performance, check out our free guide, Sustainable Strength. It includes a sample week of workouts to help you train smarter. You can find the link in the description box below. All right, that's all I got for today. Let me know in the comments section down below which progression you're most excited to start off with. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We have a ton more content in the realm of athletic performance, strength and conditioning, functional strength, mobility, all that good stuff coming down the pipeline. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.